here there be spoilers. Beware any you haven't read yet. Avast, ye viewers! Ge back, afore ye be spiled of this book.
Evening. This is Graz, and I am here to do a review for book number 2 of the 12-12-12 challenge. Book number 1 I just did, and I'll be posting here in a minute. It was Wolf's Hour by Robert R. McCammon. So enjoy that, if you want to. Book number 2, and I read it on the Kindle, so you'll be seeing a picture next to me, is, Murder on the Links by Agatha Christie. Excuse me. This was, I'm going to be reading all of Agatha Christie's books in order of publication. And before this year, I had already read the first 2. So this is actually her 3rd book published. It was published in 1923. So, and I read it on the Kindle. It is 199 pages. I read that all on the 3rd of January. It has a 3.86 overall rating on Goodreads. That is across 76,427 ratings, and 5,504 reviews. So impressive. I personally gave it a 6.25 out of 10. It's okay. That's like a 3 out of 5 on the Goodreads list. So it's above average. Now I normally try to get 5 likes and 5 dislikes, but I only came up with 4 of each for this book. Now, as you're might get tired of me saying this, especially since I'm going to be doing a review for every book, but pay attention to the pirate at the beginning of the video, because my reviews have spoilers. It's just the way I talk about books, and that's why I'm giving you so many warnings, because I don't want to ruin anything. So I always start with the dislikes, and then move on, and then finish with the likes to finish on a positive note. So Murder on the Links by Agatha Christie. The dislikes. Number 1, it had a bit too much French. After about 150 pages, I started to get kind of like the context a little. I still don't know what any of those words truly mean, but I kind of got a little bit of the context. But it took me out of the tale. You know, I don't understand French, so anyway. Number 2. I'm starting to notice with certain patterns of older authors from the early 1900s and stuff who have a series of books. I mean, it's seeming to work for Agatha Christie. It always works for the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew and stuff like that, where the title character or the main character always figures out something that seems really easy, but that they make the deduction or they find the clue, but the trained professionals never see it until the title character tells them, and then they're like, oh wow, I never thought of it that way before. And it's like, really? I mean, I get that you want your main character, in this case Poirot, to shine. I get that. But I feel that it kind of diminishes the supporters. As an example, there's footprints in one of the flower beds in this story, but not the other flower bed. And nobody sees it as important, including the actual employed by the police and investigator. Poirot finds out points out why it's so important that, well, the gardener just did a lot of work in these flower beds, so this one has footprints in it still, because the people who committed the crime didn't go by that flower bed. But the reason that there's no footprints over here for us to find is because they raked it over. They smoothed it out so that you couldn't see their footprints. And all the professionals all go, oh yeah, wow. It's just really, I mean, if they're that stupid, how did they become what they are? Anyway. Number 3, I try not to really focus on this kind of stuff, because I understand that it was written when it was written, and I understand that the mentalities from back then are from back then, and they're not so much from now. So you're not going to hear me complain about this too much. I try to put myself in the mindset of the time, but there's a little bit of weird period racism here. A wandering bum or tramp is called an Apache. It's just, what? I mean, the Apaches were a very proud Native American tribe, and here they're kind of they're reduced to itinerant people who don't have no homes. And I normally can just get around it because, like I said, I understand the time frame of when it was written, and that the mentalities are what they are. And I'm one of those that doesn't ignore the past. I know that it happened, but that one kind of got to me a little bit. So, but and then my number 4 dislike, and which is actually the worst thing in this story, is Poirot. You know how like Sherlock Holmes had Watson. Well, Poirot has a guy named Hastings, and he meets this girl at the start of this story, and the story's like, the timeline of the story is like 3 weeks to a month, maybe, if that. And in that time, Hastings is already in love with the girl that he met at the beginning. She's a big part of the story, but I mean, he's that in love with her that he's willing to circumvent justice, and to maybe even, I mean, he's so in love with her that there's a point where he's like, do I love her that much to let an innocent man go to the guillotine? Like, really? In a month? In a month, you're so much in love with this girl that you've met 3 times, who might be an accessory to a murder, that you're going to let an innocent man go down for it? I just thought, well, that's kind of, I don't know. It felt like a forced plot, which I don't like. But those are the dislikes. The likes, let's see. I like the weapons. Like the dagger, the group of daggers that are used to commit the crimes are neat. They're like, oh God, I can't remember what they're called, what they're made out of, but the one kid is a pilot in the RAF, and he uses something off of his plane to be made into these really cool letter opener daggers, and those are used, it's like they're made out of strings or pieces of glass or something. They're really neat. Poirot is mind-numbingly, frustratingly amazing in his genius. I mean, he asks this question that everybody else is like, you could just feel everybody giving him that sideways look. I mean, you're supposed to be this brilliant detective, and you're asking about that? And then later, it turns out to be one of the most important things in the whole story. Like, that's what helped him realize who the murderer was. So that was kind of neat. I love his methodology. And I know there are some people that try to say that Poirot is just basically like a French Sherlock Holmes. But he's not. He's not. He's got his own way about him, and I think that Holmes and Poirot are nice complements, and I hope that eventually I find a story where they meet. That would be so cool. The police detective that shows up, Girard, Giraud. I don't know. I'm gonna mess up all those names. I like him. He's a moron. And he's so pompous and he thinks so highly of himself. It's kind of funny that when he's there, Poirot is a perfect foil to him. And I kind of hope he comes back, in future stories. Although I did feel that Hastings, who lives with Poirot and helps him on the cases, I kind of felt like he jumped over to believe in Girard more than Poirot rather quickly. I don't know. But anyway, and then my last like of it was, and I wrote it, red herrings to the left of me, false clues to the right. Here I am, waiting for the final review with you. Agatha Christie keeps you going until she's ready for you to know who the bad guy really was. I mean, I was so certain it was like 2 or 3 different people until then Poirot says, oh, no, I let you believe that was who it was, but it's actually not them. And you move on to the next suspect until finally you find the real killer in the last couple of chapters, who's been there all along. Just brilliantly done. Agatha Christie is a master, or was a master of this craft. But that was book number 2 in my 12-12-12 challenge for January. Like I said, it was 199 pages. I read the entire thing on the 3rd. Which the 3rd was actually a big page day for me. I read 145 pages in Wolf's Hour. I read the 199 pages of this. And then I read the first 56 pages of Police. So that was a 400-page day. So pretty cool. But anyway, that's that. And that was book 2. So I will see all of you soon with book 3, which it will be, obviously, as you know, Police by Joe Nesbo. Until then, read more.